Hi, it's Brian Timoney here, and welcome onto today's show. Now, what are we going to be talking about? We're going to be talking about fake crying. Can you imagine it? Fake crying. You can probably imagine what my response is going to be to this. We're also going to be talking about agents. You know, should you stay with one agent, change agents, all that kind of lovely stuff. So let's go to the first question.
How do some actors manage to do their best fake cry? Do they get given eye drops, or do they think about something that will make them cry or become emotional? Amber Winder.
So how do some actors manage to do their best fake cry? Oh my goodness. Right, the fact is, you're right. There are some actors out there that fake cry. Yeah, they're given eye drops, or they're given a tear, what we call a tear stick. That just goes underneath the eye, and it makes you produce water in the eye. But here's the thing is, you should never need to fake cry. It shouldn't even be, really an option. Because at the end of the day, you're able to cry. You're a human being, right? And that happens to everyone at some point. And it's really a matter of you being able to recreate that. As a professional actor, I believe it's fundamental that you should be able to produce all the different kinds of emotions that you have to produce. So there is a difference when somebody fakes a cry, and yeah, there might be tears coming, but that's just water being produced in the eye. It doesn't mean that that person's feeling that emotion. And there's a definite difference you can feel off of actors that are actually going through the emotional experience as opposed to people who aren't. It's a much deeper experience. So here's what I think. You should never do that, and you use the method. You use emotional memory as a way of producing the correct emotions. Emotional memory, we've talked about this a lot in the show in the past, but just to recap very quickly, it's about thinking about an experience that's going to produce the right emotional experience for the scene you're about to do. And that's an experience from your own life, and you go through that in detail through the senses. Now, that's the way the best actors in the world do it, and it's the way that I suggest that you should do it too. Okay, let's go to the next question.
What's your take on having multiple agents? I've been invited by a few, but I want to remain loyal to the first one. Alistair Albert.
Okay, so the short answer here is you should only have one agent. It's generally accepted within the industry that you'll have one acting agent. Now, you might have another agent that does voiceover, or I know some people that come from the modeling area, they have a separate modeling agency as well as an acting agency. But when it comes to acting, you're expected to have one acting agent. Now, why is this? Well, when an agent submits you to a casting director, if you had multiple agents, they both may send you for the same casting. Then the casting director's in the situation of, well, which agent should I respond to? On top of that, if they do decide to bring you in, regardless of what agent they pick, you would need to pay, if you got that job, you'd need to pay both agents. So you'd have to pay double the fee. So here's the thing is, it's never really acceptable to have two agents. You must just go with the one. Of course, slightly different, an agency might allow you to have a different voiceover agent or model agent, but for the acting part, one agent. So I think that's really important. Now, should you remain loyal to one agent? Well, this is a very good question. Some actors, as their careers develop, tend to kind of go through different agents. Sometimes they start with a smaller agency and end up with one of the massive agencies. Other actors decide that they started with a small agent and they stay with a smaller agent. Jack Nicholson's a great example, actually. Jack Nicholson's been with the same agent since he started. And in fact, this agent only has one client, and that's Jack Nicholson. So, which is, I'm quite sure, enough to keep him busy for a very long time. So there you go. It really depends on your relationship with that agent and how well that relationship's working. Because at the end of the day, it's up to the agent to get you auditions, and then it's up to you to secure the work, and win the roles. So if that partnership is working well, then why would you think about moving on? There's no reason to move on. However, if it's not for whatever reason, and that can be for various reasons, sometimes as well, you just don't see eye to eye. It's not a good fit, and you decide that you're going to move on, which is accepted within the agents within the world of acting, because sometimes agents let an actor go because it's not working out, and on the same hand, sometimes an actor decides, I want to move on because it's not working out. So it's business at the end of the day. You have to look at the situation, decide whether it's mutually beneficial for you both to remain together. If it's not, then it might be time to move on. That's how I think you should assess that particular situation. So let's move on to the next question.
Could you give me some basic starting points on how to find an acting agency? Amy Ware.
So some basic ideas on finding an acting agency. Right, so first off, when you start to approach agents, they're going to expect you to have an understanding of the industry. They want to prove to them that you know your stuff. And we're not talking about having a massive CV and going, look, I've got 1 trillion credits, you should take me on. You know, if you've come out of acting school, for example, they will expect your CV to be quite sparse, basically populated by the credits that you did at that acting school. So don't worry about that. But I'm highlighting this because it's not a case, you can't just walk in off the street and decide to go to an agency and go, oh yeah, I think I've got some talent for acting, you know, my mum and dad say I should be on the stage. You know, if you do that, that's a recipe for disaster, right? This is business. These are business people that you're approaching. You know, agents are business people at the end of the day, and they negotiate contracts and they develop actors' careers. So when you're going to meet them, you need to prove to them that you are worthy of being in the room at all to begin with. You know, you need to prove to them that you can really act, for example. And that means, you know, on your CV, if you train properly, and do you have a show reel that you can show them? You working on camera, for example, or can you invite them to come and see a show that you're doing so they can assess your work? So here's the first thing is, if you're just thinking about, you've woken up one day and you think, oh, I'm going to be an actor. Oh yeah, I've heard they've got agents. I'm just going to go out there and, you know, that's not going to work. And so what I'm going to tell you in the next part here is that you shouldn't do that, right? So you've got to train, you've got to have some credentials behind you, albeit basic and beginning credentials, before you even think about sending a letter or picking up the phone to talk to an agent. And I'm telling you that for your own good, because if you do this the wrong way, you know, there might not be a second occasion to approach that agent or that casting director, whoever. So from an agent perspective, the best place to find out where the agents are is to get a thing called contacts. And you can get that from spotlight.com, and they produce a book every year which lists all the contacts really in the acting industry, not just the agents, but casting directors, production companies, and theatres as well. So it's really the Bible, if you like, for actors is a copy of contacts. So I recommend that you get that. You can look through, it gives you some basic information about each of the agents, and then of course you can do further research on the internet on each agent, and then you can approach them. You know, you can send them their address, their phone number, sometimes even an email or a website will be detailed in contacts, and you can approach them in a professional way, headshot, CV, show reel, etc. Okay, so that's what I would recommend on how to approach an agency and where to find an agency. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this show. As always, you can send in your questions by Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat. You can send them in by email or even film yourself asking the question, and we'll show it on the show. So go ahead, and I look forward to speaking to you on the next one.